In this video, we're going to be setting up our WhatsApp clone application to be able to connect to and use Firebase. So users are stored on Firebase, so we'll need a way to connect our app to Firebase to be able to pull user data and also interact with other users on the platform and also send messages back and forth. So to set that up, the first thing that we need to do is install the Firebase library. And to do that, we're going to run the command npm install Firebase. npm install Firebase at the root of our WhatsApp clone project. So once you have this command logged in, simply hit enter and let's simply wait for the installation process to be done. So now that our installation is done, we now have Firebase installed in our WhatsApp clone project. So the next thing we need to do is set up our project to connect to Firebase. And to do that, I'm going to be creating a service, a Firebase service inside the WhatsApp clone application that would enable us connect to and interact with Firebase. I'm going to, let me just leave this. Just going to close the state app. Yeah, I want to save that. Definitely, I want to save that. So, let's go into our source folder, and inside our source folder, create a file called Firestore. I'm going to name it Firestore because we want to connect to our Firestore database. Just going to create this file. And inside this file, we're going to begin the process of setting up Firebase and connecting to Firestore. So the first thing I'm going to do is import the Firebase library. Import Firebase from Firebase. So we're going to make that a default export. And the next thing is to initialize our Firebase application and get a reference to our Firestore database. So I'm going to say const db. db is going to be the reference to our Firestore database, and then call the Firebase.initialize app function. This takes in an initialization object, and in order to connect to Firestore, we're going to need two properties, and that's the project ID for the Firebase project that we created, and also a database URL. These are configuration values that you get by creating a new Firebase project. So let's just go to Firebase console and get these values. I'm going to go to my browser. These are my app page for the WhatsApp clone project that is created. So this is the project page rather. So this is the project page for the WhatsApp clone project that is created. And I have one app registered like we did in a previous video. So I'm going to click on that app, which is the WhatsApp clone web app. Click on the cog icon, scroll down. Sometimes this doesn't appear by default, so you might need to click on this app name on the web on the left hand side. So click on WhatsApp clone and let's go to the config section. Yeah, config. Scroll a little bit and get those values that we so need. So project ID, just going to copy the project ID and paste into my application. So project ID, bam. So the next thing, database URL. I hope I spelled this correctly, so I think I'm just going to copy the whole thing from here. So I'm just, okay, yeah, you see, I didn't spell that correctly, so I'm just going to copy this. URL is in all uppercase. So database URL, replace the whole thing here with database URL. So I have my project ID and my database URL. Now to get a reference to the Firestore database, I'll say .firestore. Good. So this automatically gives me a reference to my Firestore database. And we can simply export this, export db as export default db. Good. And with this, we can import this file and call the regular Firebase functions in the Firebase API and be able to interact with our Firestore database.